Hi everyone, very good morning. And this is just a beginning. I just wanted to uh, you know uh, go on and then add new kind of topics that would help you to grow your career. And as you know that there are a big scope for for data warehousing nowadays, and people are looking up a lot of jobs. So we have three kind of that's called phase of the BI project. One is ETL, then reporting and database. So these three are main components for getting a successful project in the BI domain. So I mean, I'll be discussing each of the component detail by detail, going forward in a lot of videos. But today we are supposed to discuss on one of the key part that's called ETL performance tuning. So the ETL tool that we are currently using is Informatica Power Center. So today in this particular session, I am going to discuss on how you can tune a particular Informatica objects and different kind of ways that will help you to, optimize the session mapping and transformation, all these activities. So before I share my screen, just wanted to know this is just a beginning, and I'll be adding further details in my upcoming videos. Okay, so let's start, and let me share my content. Okay, hopefully you guys able to see my screen. So let me start it. Okay, so I hope the screen is clear to everyone. And this is just to this is just to let you know that we are just it is all about the tuning only, how you can improve all the process for ETL. So there is other part, as I said, reporting and database, but we'll discuss it later, after some sessions. But currently we'll start with the ETL part. So the tool is Informatica Power Center, and then we can go detail by detail, step by step. Okay. So if you see, we are just going to discuss, why you need a performance tuning. Okay, and then what situation you feel that the performance is getting down and you need to improve it, right? So what are the basic requirements for ETL and how to enhance this, the mapping, the transformation sessions, and how you can do the different kind of technical implementation. Okay, so how you can apply the technical implementation to improve the performance of the transformation, performance of the sessions, mappings, so all these activities. Okay, so as I say, the performance tuning is not only limited to Informatica ETL tool. The performance tuning also applicable to database and reporting as well. But yes, so we'll be going step by step to understand what can be done and how it can be done. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So why you need a tuning is basically when you get the data, when you get the logic and everything, right? So we expect everything should be optimized, everything should be faster, the data should be faster accessible, and data should be loaded very fast. And then even we should load different kind of data sources, looking at the factor that we are meeting the execution time, space, everything, right? So what happens nowadays is like the data is growing much more in different area. So you can see a huge data growth in terms of gigabyte, terabyte over a period of time. So earlier there was no, the volume of the data was little bit low, but now if you see the volume of the data is being high because a lot of analysis and predictive analysis, prescriptive analytics, and data science has been done to analyze more and more data, right? So that's the one of the reason why you need a tuning, because when the data grows, we also need to design a such scalable systems as that improvised system, right? Improved system, so that you can get a definitely get a good improvement and optimization. Okay, so now you also see there is a change in the data in source side and what happens in targets, right? So you also need to manipulate. Okay, so is there an issue at the source side, is there an issue at target side, right? And then is there any issue with the system? There might be system issue, like your memory issue, there is some size issue, space issue. So we also need to consider like what aspects or what area the issue is happening and how can I improve it, how can you improve it. Right, so that's what we are going to discuss it more on this. So you can see what to do when ETL performance degrades, right? So as you see, when you work in Informatica in any of the ETL tool, so there'll be a lot of cases happens, like there are a lot of sessions running at the similar time, right? So and you see that the sessions are in like waiting state for longer time. The problem is like because lot of sessions are consuming the Informatica server memory, and then a lot of database space also is being utilized. So what happens, it affects the other jobs which are running at the same time. So basically we also need to identify the issue reading to the log, workflow log, session log, and you need to understand what is the thread busy percentage, what is the thread is performing, how the thread is performing across different sessions, right? So looking at the factor, you'll understand where the things are going wrong. And then sometime what happens, the space issue also we see, like unable to extend the time size. What happens if the database size is full, because anytime you execute a query, so it also takes some time, right? So what happens sometime if the query space is full, you may not get the enough space to execute. So for that reason, you also need to understand what to do. Either you can increase the time size, or you need to do some tuning in the query. And if there is some other NFS space or something you want to spread, so that also need to look at it. Now you also may face the network problems, you know where sometimes the session get hanged due to some what's called integration service down, and something session is aborted, session is in hang state. So you also need to understand the throughput system of the system, right? So how the jobs are running, what is the throughput, and how we can improve it. Okay, so sometimes the database problem is like if the database is down, let's say some upgrade or something is going on, so database is down, it affects whole Informatica job. And then even it like if the table size is high, right? So the lookup cache will be too high, and then it also affects the memory thing, right? So in lookup should be for a smaller table, right? It cannot be a bigger table, because unnecessarily the cache will take a lot of time, and then for building the cache, and then it also affects the performance, right? So sometimes you need to keep in mind those things, how to deal with the lookup cache, because it's very very important. Because if the data grows high, you also need to manage the cache for different transformation genuinely. Like we see aggregator, joiner, lookup, those are using the cache, right? So we need to understand like if you're using this transformation, how we can optimize the cache. That's the most important thing. So you need to figure it out, like what are the transformation, then note it down and note it the cache size and all those things, so that you'll understand, okay, when I can improve it, at what place I can improve, so that we can develop a scalable system for a larger volume growth. Okay, so now why you need a ETL, right? So ETL is, you understand, there is a velocity, volume, and variety. So if you want to deal with a lot of data, if you want to get the data load in a faster way, right? And you understand, different kind of data source we deal with in market, right? So you also need to improve it, right? So this volume, velocity, and variety. So you want to get the speed, you want to get the data volume, you want to get the variety of sources. You need to deal with all these three things. So definitely the ETL is required to improve this particular things, which cannot done in the other programming language so easily. Okay, so again, so we get a lot of challenges, right? So we get a lot of challenges, and those challenges are, see, I mean, the bottlenecks, what we call performance issues. Okay, so it can happen in different levels in the Informatica. So one is the bottleneck can happen in the source and target database. It can also happen in mapping stage. It can also happen in session level. It can also happen in system levels. So just to like let you know, like simple way, like source target means if there is a source database and target database, and if you see the performance is going slow, so either you need to improve your source query, you apply your indexes, you apply your gather statistics, you apply your hint. So those kind of things you can apply in source. Even in target, you also need to know, how it is behaving. You can create what is called delete the index before the load and then create the index after the load. You can do bulk load if possible. If there is no key or no index, you can also apply those things. Even you can also connect with the DBA to optimize the network packet size, or if you want to increase some temp space or something, so you can do that. And then again, mapping bottlenecks is purely the transformation and logics that you're doing. So there are various transformation you can tune, basically with the cache transformations. And you can also tune the logic, because I see, a lot of people use the same logic in different places. I mean, like repeating the same transformation again and again. So we have an improvement way that we can create one time and then can use it a lot of places. So that also we need to focus on the mapping thing. Again, in the session step, you have a lot of things in session. You can keep an eye on DTM buffer size. You can keep an eye on incremental aggregation. You can keep an eye on partition, right? And you can keep an eye on the PDO also. There are a lot of aspects. System, morely, whenever you want to implement the grid processing or called load balancing, right? So you can have multiple nodes or multiple integration service in Informatica, where you can split your jobs across those multiple nodes so that the jobs can easily run at the both nodes, right? Without affecting the single CPU process, right? So that's the main thing. So that's what we get, challenges in everywhere, starting from session, mapping, source, transformation. So you need to understand how to tune these particular processes, whether you have to tune source, target, mapping, transformation, everywhere you can go, and then you can try your best to optimize the performance and eliminate this bottleneck as soon as possible. Okay. So let's say, you can see, in a source, as I said, you can optimize a query, right? And you can also optimize the data type conversion thing whenever you need. Transformation errors, you have to keep an eye how to optimize the different transformations, right? That's an important thing. Okay. So now, if you see here in source caliber is very much important transformation in Informatica, because you can, if it is a homogeneous source, let's say in the same database, you can do a lot of activities in source caliper, like you can filter the data, joining the data, sorting the data, aggregating the data, right? And then single pass read, you can, if you want to read something from the source, you can read it, right? You can join everything, you can do it in source caliper. So it eliminates the use of filter, joiner, sorter, aggregate, a lot of transformation. So everything will be, can be done in source caliper. So if it is a homogeneous source, you should go and try out these options in source caliper, so that you don't need to use unnecessary transformation in going the pipeline. Okay. So cache management. So you have to keep an eye, as I said, on the transformation those are using cache. One is aggregator, rank, joiner, and lookup. Okay, even if they use index cache, data cache, right? It depends. Index cache, you can store your key values, data cache store your records values. So you have to keep an eye on those particular cache file, so that you will understand, okay, what transformation I should go for optimizing, right? So you can see here, if I go for aggregator, it can store group values in the index cache, the calculation based in the data cache, right? So rank, similarly group value, and then you can see the record value, joiner, lookup, right? So this is basically to let you know, like what the index cache stores and what the data cache stores. Okay. Now, most of the time, if you see in the session label, the memory parameter is auto. Default is auto, but it's not that we can keep it auto always. If you creating a session, and if you want to improve the session performance, and you need to improve the size, you are welcome to increase the size as per your requirement. Okay. So as you see, like you have to calculate a particular factor, based on your column size and output columns. Default, it is, you can see here, the size of the index cache and data cache, right? So you can easily see, what is the size for the index data cache in the bytes, right? So this is a default size, but definitely you can go for, it's 1 million bytes or 1 MB, and this is 2 MB, right? So, but you can further go on increasing if you need it. Okay, now caching is very good thing because you don't need to hit the database table again and again. If it is not caching, the caching is not enabled, it's a problem because your server hits the database table and it has to read row by row basis. That's why it's better to go for caching, right? You can also, I mean, there are different type of cache. We'll discuss it in detail on the upcoming sessions. But to know that, you have static cache, dynamic cache, shared cache, persistence cache. So always try to use, like, let's say you're using the same lookup, you're using multiple mapping, right? So make it reusable, right? So you can use it, multiple map easily. And one more thing, like if you want to share the cache, right? So you can do it, right? And instead of creating every time, you can also share the cache, right? And one more thing, lookup, always remember to use smaller tables and use the appropriate columns you require. Okay, and then the most important thing is avoid the order by clause. So you can comment it in the SQL override, lookup override. If you go for lookup override, you can comment that order by clause so that it will not sort it, when you run the session. So that is very important, that you should avoid this order by clause by creating a lookup override so that the lookup performance can be optimized. Okay, you can also apply index in lookup, also in lookup, joining ports, that also good. Now filter router is a very single point you have to remember. In filter and router, use it as early as possible in the data so that the unnecessary data should not go ahead in the pipeline. Okay, complex expression don't create in filter condition, use simple conditions. Okay, and you should remember that you have to use router transformation instead of multiple filter transformation. Okay, now going back to the aggregator transformation, you always use the sorted option, sorted input option before aggregating. That is must. And always use whatever columns you need in the aggregation so that the aggregation will be proper. Okay, now if you are joining data from similar sources, so go join in the source qualifier easily. Don't need to use joiner. But if you have a flat file and then database, then definitely you need to go for join. Okay, but in joiner transformation also you need to sort the data properly. Okay, and always the master source should be the fewer records because the cache will be created in the master source. Okay, so you need to remember this fact. Okay, and then again calculation wise, in an expression you can use decode instead of if. You can use operators instead of function. That's very fast. Okay, so numerical operation are faster than the string operation. So so basically when you compare the lookup conditions, right, so always compare with the string format, not the date format. Okay, so this is the main important thing. And then again, always remember you have to use the reusability concept. Use logic, create once and then use it anywhere, anytime. Okay, and remember only the ports that are required in the transformation, connect those ports. Don't connect the unnecessary port because this also takes memory. Okay, so you should not connect the unused ports to the next pipeline or any of the pipeline. Whichever you need the ports, use those much. Okay, that is one thing. And there are some single pass reads. That's an important point. So whenever you have 2-3 source, you use a single source qualifier. You join all those sources and use single source qualifier instead of multiple source qualifier to populate the data. Okay, so you should have single source. You can have different target. That's okay, but don't try to use multiple source and multiple targets. That's not required. And one more thing, if you are creating a field inside the source, that is being populated through stored procedure, don't do that, because it's a problem. Every time you read the data, it will call that stored procedure for that particular field, and then it again slows the process. So we should get the other way to do it. Okay, a reusable transformation, maplet, worklet is required. It is mandatory. It is must. Okay, whenever you need, please go ahead and use it. Okay, so there are there is a like a summary of the thing. I'll just show you what is the design, bad design, good design. So if you see here, just just a simple thing. Always when you create a mapping, put a particular comment. Okay, so that is good for the understanding of the mapping. Now, if you see here, it's good because the multiple source is being joined with a single source caliper. You're using expression, then the router to split the data to multiple targets. And if you see, aggregator is used by after the router and then the target. This is called a good design. Now, what is a bad design? Now, bad design is this one. So why? See, as I already said, you have a similar source, Oracle. So you should go for a source caliper rather than joiner transformation. And then again joining. So you are joining two joiner additional transformation here, and then aggregating and then doing data, everything to be here. You're not splitting data to like error table or clean table. This is a bad design. And this is a good design. That's the reason. You're using router, you're using source caliper for joining these three, right? So the another design called ugly. So if you see why, see, I mean, again, you are using two joiners, then the aggregator, then expression, then router, then expression. So you are complicating the mapping. And again, you are putting aggregator after the joiner and not using the source caliper property. So this is again further ugly. So you also need to think about your design, because your design makes time, right? So you also need to consider timing and improve the process. Okay, is another example if you see here in diagram. So this is a mapping that suppose you created. Now what first you need to understand what are the areas that is causing the problem. By looking at the mapping, you should find out this is my section where I can see the issue. So let's go to the second next slide. If you see here, you can see here I am putting sorter, then putting filter. So if I can do that sorter, okay, so let's say I'm doing sorting here, filter. So filter should be earliest. Filter should be first, sorter should be next. Because I want the unnecessary data should not go ahead. So keep filter on the first, then the sorter. Now, if you see here, I'm using two expression here, right? I'm using 5 expression here, and then the router and then aggregator here, and then coming to sorter again after the expression, and then doing this. This is very, very complicated design, and it's not a optimized one. So you need to see if a expression I can put all the calculation in single expression, I should do that instead of creating 6, 7 expression. And then I should understand where I need to use sorter and aggregator, right? So if you go to the next slide, if you see how this mapping is clean now, it is clean, current, and precise, right? Compared to this mapping, this is very clean. See, filter should be used here, router, after that is sorter, then the expression, then the router and aggregator, then you split the target like this. So you also need to think when you develop a mapping, how the transformation looks like, where I should fit the transformation according to logic, how and how it can be cleaned, how it can be simpler. Okay, so this is how you can do it, right? So again, on the last part of this video, I just wanted to say you also need to think about the memory, hardware, as I said. You also need to know how much CPU you are using, how much cache you are using, whether you need to improve the DTM buffer size, cache size, whether you have to implement the multi-node system. So that also comes into picture. You also need to think, right? So I mean that is very important, to manage the cache in the memory. Okay, so I mean this is just a, as I said, this is just a beginning. So we'll also discuss further tuning part, tuning things in the second part of these videos, where also like what PDO, what is partitioning, and then we'll be seeing the incremental load process, CDC, right? So there are a lot of aspects of tuning, right? So we'll go through all those things. This is just for you, just to understand how we go through the tuning process and where we can go for, whether in design, whether in development, whether testing. So we have a lot of ways, we have a lot of scope to improve our ETL performance. I hope that you should like this video, and please like, share, and comment, subscribe, and let me know for any of your feedback. I'll definitely work on putting more videos in the upcoming times. Thank you.